Most bar prep courses these days are overwhelming, they're boring, they're filled with tech chaos, distractions, and they're ultimately expensive, thousands of dollars. So what we've done at Studicata, now having been around for 10 years, having myself personally worked with tens of thousands of bar takers, we've really tried to, as responsibly and diligently as possible, cut all of this stuff out. Make a bar prep course that's not overwhelming, that's not boring, not filled with all the tech chaos, disruptions with software breaking and your Wi-Fi going down and all the stuff you can't access. We've tried to remove the distractions so you can get as laser focused in your studies as possible. And ultimately, we've tried to make this thing as affordable as possible for everyone in what we're calling our Back to Basics bar review course. Okay, let's break this down in a little bit more detail. So if we were to take every single bar taker who's ever taken the bar exam and we plotted them on a little scatter chart like this, we would see, very obviously, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, a positive correlation between the amount of high quality study time that bar taker gets to the points they score. Basically, nobody would dispute this. Very obvious. The more high quality study time you get, the more likely it is you're going to score points on the bar exam. Obviously, right here we have in blue the passing score. Everyone wants to be above that passing score, right? You want to get enough points to pass. Well, how do you do this? Like, what's within your control? What should the goal of a bar prep course be? To maximize the amount of high quality study time you get, because the more you move this way, it's almost impossible. The more high quality study time you get, the more likely you are to score points, which is the more likely you are to pass. So our goal as a bar prep provider should always be to try to move students, bar takers, this way along the x-axis, right? We want to get you going this way. We want to get you more high quality study time. So the way Studicata has kind of looked at this and structured this is to try to remove the impediments that a lot of bar prep courses have that move students this way. So like the first thing I would point out is being overwhelming, right? This is one of the things I hear most from students, right? That their bar prep course is overwhelming, right? And this should be fairly obvious to see why, right? The bar exam is a huge test. And so the way most bar prep companies deal with this, right? You have, depending on what exam you're taking, what format, let's say you have about 12 subjects to learn, right? And say you have a 56-day schedule. 8 weeks would be pretty traditional for a bar prep course. And say you've got, 12 subjects that are being tested and you have a performance test, right? That's not really testing the substantive areas of law, but another thing you have to prepare for. Well, say you need at least 3 days to prepare for the performance test. So take 56 to 53 and then take another 3 days for rest, break. Maybe you get 6. So now you're at like 50 days. And then say you need at least 2 days for a full length simulated exam. You probably need more. Now you're at like 48 days to study. So really you have, 48 days to learn 12 substantive areas of law. Things like contract law, civil procedure, constitutional law, things you may have spent 1, 2, 3 semesters in law school trying to learn and understand. You now have basically like 4 days to learn. 12 times 4 is 48. You have 48 days. You have about 4 days, right? Simple math there. So the reason this can get overwhelming really fast is because it's hard to learn constitutional law in 4 days, contract law in 4 days. And the way most bar prep providers approach, preparation for these subjects is very much they take the content scope outline provided by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. National Conference of Bar Examiners, NCBE, says this is what we're going to test in each subject. And the bar prep providers obviously take that and they go over every single iteration, every possible way that could be tested. And they write outlines and they make videos. And that's how you end up with these outlines that are, treatises of law. You've all seen the pictures where there's like a stack of books this high that students get. Here's a pro tip. No person, I've done this now for 10 years, worked with like tens of thousands of students. I have never seen a student get through that entire stack of books to a point where they could tell you everything in that stack of books. And a lot of them still pass. So like by definition, more stuff is being thrown at students than is necessary to pass because literally nobody knows every piece of law in all of those textbooks. That would be impossible in a 8-week study period to learn that much information. Now, I get wanting to be comprehensive and wanting to make sure students have access to every piece of information, but when you're trying to assign all of that, read all of these treatises of law, then go over all of these videos, and go over all of these practice questions, and review all these long, detailed it can get so easy to be overwhelmed without a proper plan of attack. So you end up with these ultra overwhelming courses, just throwing so much stuff at students. So the way Studicata kind of handles this with our Back to Basics course, switch markers here, is we've tried to get as efficient as possible. Efficient as possible. Right? So rather than, taking the approach of, here's the content scope outline, here's everything that could be tested on the bar exam, right? And going in and writing out massive outlines, massive video lectures, all this stuff for anything that could ever be tested. We start with the data. We say, well, what's most likely to be tested here? In civil procedure, jurisdiction and venue, things like subject matter jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction are far more tested than some random, rule 34G of the federal rules of civil procedure, right? So we want to make sure we focus on things like jurisdiction and venue, subject matter jurisdiction, personal. We want to spend way more time there, both in terms of the amount of time and the amount of detail we go into. Things that are less likely to be tested, we want to spend less time on and go into less detail on. We don't apply the same amount of volume to every single topic, which is something I kind of see with the materials from other bar prep courses, where it looks like they're trying to explain every detail of every law that could ever be tested. And what you really end up with is something so overwhelming, it's almost impossible to use. Students have to find ways to cut things out on their own. Where at Studicata, we've done that for you. We've said, no, look, these are the things you really need to know. We've streamlined it, put it into materials that are really targeted, really focused. And this applies to all of our content, the outlines, the study aids, the videos, and the way we assign practice questions. Okay, so the next thing you're going to see that I think can move students this way, it really takes away from their high quality study time. Again, this is based on like my 10 years of doing this. And I would say this is more true today than ever, is distractions. Distractions. Right, so what happens now is there's been a trend, and this is different than when I graduated from law school, 10, however many years ago. When I graduated from law school and studied for the bar exam, it was still mostly in person. Like the online prep course, it may have existed, but it wasn't as popular as it is today. Like the way you did it is you went to these little courses in classrooms, you sat there and you did a lot of it by hand. And the advantage of that was there wasn't as many distractions as you now see. A lot of the programs now, a lot of the bar prep courses are in apps. They're on screens. They're on computers. And this has some benefits. But one thing I've seen is if you're not very careful with this, it's easy to get distracted. With all of the TikTok, social media, Instagram, all of the email and work obligations, the amount of notifications the average person's phone gets, the amount of disruptions you're going to have if you're trying to learn and study for the bar exam on a phone, on a computer, where you're getting pinged with notifications all day long, it's very hard to get laser focused, to get your high quality study time, to move this way on the x-axis. Those disruptions from these distractions are going to move students this way, which results in less points. So how does Studicata Bar Prep, Studicata Bar Review address this? Well, we've made our Back to Basics Bar Review course almost entirely offline. So for years, we did what all the bar prep companies did. As our company grew and evolved and we had more resources, we added a lot of tech, more tech, more tech. We had the iOS, Android app, adaptive this and that, and looking at how AI gets integrated and all this stuff, right? And we accomplished a lot of those goals. We built a really great tech platform and, it accomplished what we wanted it to do. But what we noticed is the more tech we added, the more we put students in front of screens, the less time they spent studying. I mean, it was right there in the data. We can see the more we add, the more we have them in screens, the less they're actually spending doing high quality study time. Versus, at the very beginning, when I was kind of operating without the team and the scale I have today, and I would just tutor, even back when I was in law school and everything was on paper, I could see that high quality study time so much more there than when you add all of this tech, because students are just stuck in loops. You're not going to beat billion-dollar companies' algorithms. Those things are designed to keep your eyes on the screen, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you're using. Everything's designed and been so finely tuned now to keep you. You're not going to beat that. The only way to get rid of it is to get offline. So what Studicata has done with our Back to Basics courses, we have made every single component of the program offline except for watching videos. The only thing you will need Wi-Fi to do is watch the videos. Otherwise though, all of the study aids, outlines, practice assignments, all of the questions that are assigned, everything has been neatly organized into these beautifully designed workbooks. You'll be able to see samples of that below the video. But literally, the idea is you can literally wake up in the morning, turn off the Wi-Fi, go into a room with no phone, no computer, no nothing, and just work through workbooks line by line. Of course, you'll need Wi-Fi to watch the videos, but the majority of the program is all offline. It's done in these workbooks. And so really, when you get offline, you're going to remove a lot of those distractions. And we tell you in painstaking detail how to actually do this, how to turn your phone off, what you should do in the morning to turn off notifications, to turn off the Wi-Fi, whether you're unplugging the Wi-Fi, whether you're just airplane moding your devices, putting them in a drawer. We have entire systems built around removing distractions, because if we can remove these and get you laser focused, it's going to increase your high quality study time, increase your chance of scoring points, and ultimately passing the bar exam. So the next thing we've removed, which is related to this, a problem you're going to see with most bar prep companies is what I call tech chaos. This is near and dear to my heart because, like I said, we as a company invested a lot of money into tech. So I know a lot about how this technology works, how to integrate softwares, how to build custom software, working with developers, UI, UX designers, all this stuff, right? I understand very well because we did this at Studicata. We built out these really great tech platforms. So tech is cool until it's not, right? Until it breaks. And the problem with technology is fundamentally, as you can invest as much money as you want into it, there is going to be disruptions. It is not infallible. So obviously you can make things better, but think about it. Everything is changing all the time. Your iPhone, the iOS is constantly updated. All of these softwares have constant updates, all the little plugins and things. And remember, most of this is built on different code bases. So like iOS is one code base, Android is another code base. If you're using a web app on your laptop, it could be a different code base. All of these things have to stitch together invariably, and then it's all hosted on a server somewhere. Those things can go down. So not only can the software break, but also you can have problems with your own devices, right? Maybe in your house you lose Wi-Fi. I mean, what an unfortunate way to lose study time if your Wi-Fi goes down. Now you have to call the whoever to come and fix the Wi-Fi, and you can't get any high quality study time in because everything's on your phone. Or, the server crashes, or the video hosting crashes, or, we just saw in California, the testing software on exam day crashed. And now that's been this huge mess. So tech chaos, in my opinion, is one of these things that you don't realize when you sign up for most of these bar prep courses. You expect it to have like 100% uptime, but invariably you will face disruptions, whether it's on your end, the company's end, a third-party software end. Somewhere something's going to break, and that's going to lead to disruptions. This is another advantage of being fully offline, right? Another reason I love our Back to Basics offline bar prep is because it doesn't break, right? Unless you actually lose the workbooks, like the physical workbooks. And these can, by the way, you'll get all your print instructions and how all of that works. If you really want to type things on a laptop, there's a PDF version, you can print it, there's a print version. So you could be offline, put your laptop in airplane mode and still access everything on a laptop without the distractions of the internet. right? But the key is everything is offline, meaning it won't break. There's no tech chaos. You're never going to have problems logging into an account. You don't need to log into an account, right? And except to watch the videos, but the videos are just one component of a much larger course, right? So everything else though is going to be up because it's all hard copies. Like I said, unless you literally like lose your materials, like you lose the hard copy somehow, like you can't be offline because it is an offline course, right? You can't have the disruptions that reduce your high quality study time, that reduce the amount of points you're going to score. Okay, so next up, another thing that I hear from students as a big problem that reduces high quality study time, just the fact that bar prep is boring, right? It's boring, let's face it. This is not a super fun time studying for the bar exam. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to anyone and tell you that Studicata Back to Basics bar review is some super fun thing, right? It's not. There's no way any person's going to make bar exam preparation a fun experience. But what we have done as best as humanly possible is to make it engaging, not soul crushing. You know, and part of this is just, again, being offline, reducing the amount of tech that is involved in this thing. You know, a lot of the bar prep companies now are getting really involved with the AI stuff. And you're seeing the lecture shift from an in-person human experience to these AI avatars, right? You have scripts being read, probably scripts generated by AI, read by AI robot voices, and you get like the cartoon slides. And some of that might be fine enough. But ultimately, from the feedback I've heard, a lot of that just gets redundant, boring. There's a lack of human connection. And in my opinion, AI will never replace that human connection. People are always going to spend money to go see Taylor Swift play live, right? Because they have a connection. And there's no AI that's going to replace that. That's what you get with Studicata. It's engaging, it's human. Right? All of the lectures are presented by me, and I bring as much enthusiasm and energy and passion as I can every time I turn on the camera to try to keep this thing as engaging as possible. Now, I know when we're going over the rule against perpetuities, you know, at points it's going to have to be boring because the subject matter is tedious, but I do try my absolute best to be engaging. And the data, I think, does reflect this. If you look at our YouTube analytics and you see the watch time and you see the engagement numbers, it supports the idea that our videos, at least from that side of the analytics, are fairly engaging, okay? At least fairly above average. So again, you can't make bar exam preparation, you know, exciting and fun, but you can make it less soul crushing. You know, I've heard stories at other companies where, you know, a professor falls asleep like during a live lecture. Like that's a real story I've heard. You know, and that's something, in my opinion, it's unacceptable. That's never going to happen here. You're never going to see me asleep on camera. Okay, bonus problem. So all of these problems, right, with traditional bar prep, courses that are overwhelming, filled with distractions, tech chaos, and boring, all move students this way. All of these things reduce high quality study time. When a student is overwhelmed, they have analysis paralysis. What happens is, rather than taking action and doing something, students get so overwhelmed they do nothing, right? They don't get high quality study time because they're so overwhelmed they don't know what to do. They don't move this way, right? Distractions, obviously, if you're distracted by social media, you're not studying. Tech chaos, disruptions, glitches, can't log into your account, dealing with customer support, whatever it is, right? You're not studying, you're dealing with tech, right? If it's boring, you can't do something that's just awfully boring all day, every day with the same vigor that you can something that's engaging. It just reduces your high quality study time slowly but surely. So this bonus problem doesn't necessarily reduce the high quality study time a student gets, but it's still worth noting, right? And that's that bar prep traditionally is super expensive. The average course right now is probably like $2,500. But these things often get up to $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. In my opinion, and a lot of students too say, well, you know, my school has a deal with whoever, so I get it for free. I would tell you in this video, it's probably not free unless you have like a scholarship or grant. Someone is paying for it. It's probably your tuition money. So I get the spirit of what you're saying though. If you've been, you know, your tuition money is covering it, though I think is more accurate to say there. And I would actually, I could make a whole separate video on that, but I would actually talk to your administration about that in terms of, how they arrived at the decision to adopt that course for everyone using your tuition money. I think that would be a good question to ask, but your call. So what we've done though at Studicata, right, and outside of those cases, is we've tried to make this thing as affordable as possible. Right now, starting at $9.95, which I know is still expensive, but it's not as expensive. It's still going to be half the price, maybe even more, of the more traditional courses. And we've really tried to do everything we can to bring down our costs and pass those savings on to you. Part of the advantage of being offline, right? We don't have as much tech debt to deal with. We can pass those savings on to you. But also, and we have a whole section under this video that explains down, our affordability compared to some of the other bar prep companies. The easiest way to think about this though, because I know a lot of times students say, well, if it's less expensive, it has to be lower quality. And I take some exception to that because what's going on at a lot of these traditional bar prep courses, these companies that are owned by, gigantic private equity or even publicly traded in some cases, what's going on is you have a lot of money that is not being spent directly on things that help you pass the bar exam. Things like having a marketing team, a sales team, those don't actually help you pass the bar exam, but they're expensive and they drive up the cost for everybody. Now, every business is going to have some of that. Like we have an accountant, right? That helps with like bookkeeping, and that doesn't directly help you pass the bar exam, but it's an expense we have to take on. My point is that we've tried to reduce those things as much as possible. Like Studicata, we don't have a fancy high-rise office with an executive team, with a CEO and a CMO. We don't have a chief marketing officer. We don't have a marketing team, a sales team. We spend almost $0 on advertising. The way we've grown has been 100% organic, word of mouth sharing. So all of those savings we get that have nothing to do with spending resources on things that are going to help you score points on the exam, we can pass on to you. And that's how we get to these savings. It's not about, cutting corners or something. There's a lot of spending at these other companies on things that are not going to actually help you score points on the bar exam. Okay. And those are the savings we're passing on. Just want to be clear. It's not like some cut rate thing. You still get very A-level quality. I mean, the foundational outlines at Studicata are built by a guy named Zach, my colleague, one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. Graduated -- in his law school class, has an LLM from Yale Law School, super, super smart, intelligent, A-level educator, that is working with us to really deliver these products. And I know, because I know at other bar prep companies, they talk about how, illustrious their professors are that they have working there, and we have very high quality talent working here too, without spending the same amount of money though on things that won't actually help you pass the bar exam, which is how we've reduced the cost as a little bonus. Okay, so what do you actually get with Back to Basics Bar Review? We can break this down quickly. I would encourage everybody though to click below this video. There's going to be somewhere like a little FAQ section or something that's like, what all do I get? Breaks it down in a ton of detail. I would also encourage you to make a free account. Get in there. You can see samples of everything, breaks it all down. So create a free account, download all the samples, go through all of that. And also you can read below this video for more detail. But just some things I'll note quickly here. We can get through these. So what do you get? Tons of PQs. That's the first thing. I'm not going to say exactly how many because this might change a little bit, but it's basically every question the National Conference of Bar Examiners makes available for license. It's going to be thousands of questions. Again, check below the video for the exact number because that could change slightly from time to time, but you get a ton of practice questions, right? All of this is going to be integrated into our offline workbooks. These are beautifully designed. Again, you can see samples below. These offline workbooks are going to include your full study calendar, your full study schedule with checklists. It's so nice, like in the hard copy, as you can cross things out as you go. You can check the boxes, all offline. Remember, these never go down. They won't break. They won't be disrupted. If the server crashes, if your Wi-Fi goes down, you still have these. You can still work through them. They're in a step-by-step can't miss format. It's literally day by day, exactly what to do. Every single minute of your bar prep is laid out. Exactly what to do with explanations as to why you're doing those things. Checklists, check boxes, every step of the way. I love these offline workbooks. Make sure you check out a sample of those. You get 200 plus videos. You get our full video library filled with lectures, walkthroughs. A lot of these will be integrated into the offline workbooks. You will need Wi-Fi to access them. So what'll happen is you're going through the offline workbook. You'll see a little link, to our platform, our little portal where you watch the videos. So you'll go in, you'll watch those, but you do get, not all 200 are assigned. That would be like a lot of content to assign in an 8-week course. So the core videos are all assigned and they're the things we think you absolutely need for each subject. And then there's a lot of extra content. So if there's topics or subjects you're struggling with, they'll be covered in this library. There's lectures and walkthroughs. So a lot of it's whiteboard format, exactly like this. Some of it's a walkthrough format of actual questions, like breaking down essays, things like that, how to get through them. Okay, next up, you're going to get all of our outlines and study aids. The key to recognize here is they are streamlined. You don't get those big stacks of books, of treatises, for the current format of the exam where you see 12 to, depending on how you look at it, maybe 14 subjects tested. I think you have to get streamlined with these outlines, or otherwise you just end up with massive, massive amounts of information nobody can get through in an 8-week course. So you get our attack outlines, our quick sheets, our essay templates, flashcards, everything you need to get ready for the bar exam. You get expert guidance and support. We don't advertise this a ton, but when you sign up, you're going to be in a platform where you can DM me directly. You can DM a lot of our team members. You can contact other members of our community that are going through Back to Basics Bar Review. This is really cool though, because anything that's going on, you can come to me directly, which I know you're not going to get at other bar prep companies, like direct access to the founder and instructor of the whole thing. Probably not going to happen with the other guys. With us, you can do that. You also get lifetime access. This is really cool. I know a lot of companies charge like fees and stuff to retake and blah, blah, blah. With us, you use it until you pass. No fees, no hidden stuff, no gimmicks. Literally, you buy it. We're with you until you pass the bar exam. Does it work? So in terms of proof and results, I encourage everybody to go read the testimonials. It'll take you a long time to get through it. There's a testimonial page somewhere on our website. You can go through and read it. There's like thousands of reviews there. I would say Studicata, especially our YouTube channel, notably has become one of the most used resources in the entire market for bar exam preparation. I think the proof is in the amount of students that are actually using Studicata. I think it's in the testimonials. I would go check all of that stuff out. I would also note here in terms of proof and results, one thing I always say is every year we have, I don't know how many, lots of students that come to us from other bar prep companies. They come from Barbary, Kaplan, Themis, that were unsuccessful and they're retaking and their score raises 20, 30, 40 huge points, right? Anomalous amounts, things you couldn't chalk up to other reasons than the switch from whatever they were using to Studicata. And I think in those cases, if you talk to those students, they're all going to tell you, yeah, Studicata is light years ahead of these other companies. And so if that's true for some students, and it's not like a tiny sample size, that's a large enough sample size to mean something at this point. I would say if that's true for a sufficient sample of students, that warrants at least looking into Back to Basics Bar Review. So like I said, at minimum, what I would do is check it out. Look at the free stuff. You don't have to pull out your credit card and buy anything. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of research you can do first. You can sign up, make a free account. There's like a big start here module that explains how to test everything, see if Studicata is a good fit. I would do all that. I would read all the information below the video, but definitely take a look at it. I think you're going to be excited about Back to Basics Bar Review. We've really cut all the noise. We've cut all of the stuff that you don't need to pass, streamlined it in a Back to Basics offline course that's going to keep you laser focused in distraction-free learning environments, keep you moving that way on the x-axis to maximize the amount of points you're going to score. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you at our next one.